Good morning, my fellow Jeets. It is time to be looking at the new big three, not Litecoin, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, but Solana, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, as we go over some higher term time frames, essentially, preparing for this monthly's closures. Anyways, other than that, I want to get this video started. So welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel, and here we go with Bitcoin. Yesterday, Bitcoin, we were looking at a likely test towards the range high, somewhere around $72,000. Does look like Bitcoin had a nice leg up yesterday, reaching a high of 71,500 plus. And as of right now, it does look like that test is unlikely to lead towards a breakout in the more short term. I still think that we're probably looking towards closer towards April before that becomes like a more realistic or probabilistic thing to be happening. But in this case right here, the overall daily range for Bitcoin is more or less the same as what we did say before. A little over $72,000 to the upside on a daily closing basis versus basically the monthly lows thus far at very low $60,000 for Bitcoin, again, on a closing basis for the daily minimum. Now, I do want to reiterate that overall, that low $60,000 region, I do look at it as a long-term value area for Bitcoin that is based off of the Bitcoin fundamentals or Bitcoin production fundamentals chart that we've been going over several times on this channel. We won't go over in this video, but if Bitcoin gets maybe another try down around there before or maybe slightly after the halving, that would, at least in my opinion, if you are thinking more long-term, at least for myself, would probably be an opportunity. In this case right here, we do see that daily volatility is once again contracting. I mean, it's more or less neutral, but it is in a slight contraction phase right there, of which, as Bitcoin is above the median, I would expect it to probably, more likely, doesn't mean it has to, but more likely test at least somewhere around the median, maybe even all the way down to the bottom side of the 38.2 region, which the median as of right now is 68.5, and the 38.2 is 66.4. So those areas of interest would be of relevance there. If Bitcoin really were to start to close below, let's call it 66.5, I would look at that as an indicative indication that Bitcoin is very likely to come back down to the bottom side of the range, just like if Bitcoin does close above a little over $72,000, I would look at that as an indication that Bitcoin is not just going to retest prior all-time highs, but likely make new all-time highs. Somewhere around $75,000 to $76,000 is very, very likely at that point, based off of yesterday's setup, which I won't go over in today's video as well. But, what's most likely to happen here, probably some more sideways in the short term until we get into April. Anyways, next thing, let me bring up my notes over here. There we go. Okay, nice one. And we can get over into some Solana action. Solana daily range, again, basically, kind of the same thing as what it has been for the past, 10 days or so. To the upside, where are we looking at? We're looking at somewhere right around here, 205 on a daily closing basis. To the downside, looking somewhere around here, 160. Does Solana get another test down around 160 before this all said and done? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. I don't know. But just like Bitcoin at low $60,000, I would look at that as, likely a long-term value area. We do see some divergences starting to populate themselves on higher term timeframes like the 5-day and the weekly. They are not actionable as of right now. And really more long-term and kind of a reference to today's title is that Solana is ready. I mean, all of these lower term timeframes underneath, especially a monthly, are just, in my opinion, inconsequential at this point in this market cycle, as basically Solana closing anywhere above 160, 150, even 160. Very, very likely to lead towards a retest of prior all-time highs and very likely to lead towards new highs. What we can do here is we can draw a Fibonacci extension to get some areas of interest for potential breakout, new all-time high breakout targets. And realistically, if and when that does happen, probably looking somewhere around 380 to 390, and then above there, it can really move 600 plus. Solana Solana is, in my opinion, in a pole position within this market. I do think that it seems to me, and again, I don't know really much about the fundamentals. I know that Solana goes down like your mom. Just kidding. Terrible joke. Fucking dumb. 2002 called and they want your joke back, as well as that one. Anyways, I apologize to all the mothers out there because I know that there are some watching as well. There's literally 6% of this channel that are female. That's fucking crazy. It's way too high. We need the guy-to-guy ratio to increase. We need the Jeet-to-Jeet ratio to increase as well. But yeah, anyways, back onto the point. It does seem to be, just from chart-wise, that Solana is kind of solidifying itself as a multi-cycle asset. And that is rare for most things in this market. And also it is, starting... I mean, just looking at the chart, it seems to me that it really does have an opportunity to potentially overtake Ethereum. I mean, they kind of do the same thing, right? But Solana has a lot of things going for it, and I think that the chart is rather is rather telling in that regard. Also, monthly stochastic momentum for Solana remains to the upside as long as it's above $1.60. I'd basically say any sort of a closure above there, end of month in the next few days, yeah, you're very likely to see Solana probably retest all-time highs in April, maybe make new all-time highs in April as well as Bitcoin, actually. So ultimately, Solana, starting to be, or, it was kind of like a market leader in this current up phase. And I look at that as an overall signal of strength as the rotations throughout the cryptosphere continue to go onwards and forwards. Below 160, okay, something else is going on. We have to talk about, bigger, nastier corrections, but until then, upwards and onwards, most likely over the long period of time. Anyways, into Ethereum, which is definitely the weakest of the three and has been the weakest of the three, ever since this market cycle kind of got started. What would be that same sort of daily range akin to Ethereum to the downside? Just let's call it 3,100. I believe there's also like a downside target that we spoke about earlier this month. For an overall range correction into the upside. I mean, it's also not even that interesting, to be honest with you, but 3,900. Anything between there is, is long-term bullish, but just not inconsequential as far as trend goes, just more of a consolidation. Can spend some time going sideways here. That's completely fine. Above 3,900 or a little bit above 3,900, I would look at that as an indication that Ethereum is going to, again, probably retest all-time highs, probably make new all-time highs from there as well. It's just not as interesting as the other charts, as you can see. It's not as strong. And if we do look at Ethereum monthly stochastic momentum, again, it will remain to the upside as long as it's above 3140, which seems quite likely. And then more importantly, we're going to see it get into the critical zone here, similar to what we've seen. Let me actually get rid of all of this, because that was relevant for a completely different analysis. But like we've seen a few other times in its history, or two other times in its history, I should say. And when we saw those reads on monthly stochastic momentum, well, you can kind of figure out what happened after that. From there to next high, 300%. From there to next high, 800%, 700%, pretty damn nice. And this one over here looks particularly interesting just because volatility is expanding off of the lowest lows of it that we've seen on the monthly. So, theoretically, this should be pound for pound a bigger move, or it just should be a big move. So for Ethereum, really want to see it close this month out. I mean, if it closed above 3,900, that would look phenomenal for new all-time highs coming into April. But right now, I think it's being dragged up by the rest of the market rather than dragging its own self up by its own bootstraps, which at some point, it's going to have its own narrative, right? It's going to have the ETF narrative, and we saw what happened with Bitcoin. So whether that, works or not, it doesn't matter. The perception of it being a positive thing, I think, does matter. On top of that, and to maybe get a little bit more into the comparison between Solana and Ethereum, I do want to look at that particular chart. Last time we looked at it, we were really bullish on it. I think we might still be. Yeah, or I might still be. You can be whatever you want, I guess. Be all that you can be as well. Anyways, looking at it right here, look, any sort of a close above December's high at 0.5538 butyrolls, you're going to see this thing move to significantly new all-time highs. It's a macro breakout. I guess we can pull a fib extension here as well. I don't know how much I'd trust it for this one, but some areas of interest to the upside. You'd have this one right here, 0.89 butyrolls. And the 618, another big one at 0.16438 butyrolls as well. So I'd be looking for it to kind of land somewhere around there before Ethereum, maybe got a chance to gain some ground against it yet again. But this, to me, it's not to me. This is quite literally a monthly macro uptrend now, confirmed. Whether it's this month or later this year, very likely we see Solana continue to gain ground against Ethereum. So it's going to continue to likely bleed market cap against Ethereum. And I think Solana is already number 4 in total market cap. Ethereum number 2, obviously, or at least I think it's number 2. I don't even know. So I don't know. We'll see if that's the real flippening. I mean, it could very well be. Again, I don't play favorites with any of these. I don't really fucking care, to be honest with you, about these two ones. But Solana does look like the stronger of the two, and will continue to be the stronger of the two. More importantly, over these next 3 to 6, or probably more like 6 to 12 months, I'd guess. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. I forgot to talk about the sale going on until the end of the month, so you got another 4 days or so. But we're doing 20% off on all of the products and services except for the Krown Quant automation, which gets 35% off with the code Happy6Year. There'll be a link to it in the description below, just Happy6Year in all capitals. And I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. As always, I want to say, take care, much love, and fuck you, and see you tomorrow.